full of you.
There we go. Oh no, so tell me more anyway. Tell me more about your, yeah, what did you learn? Like what did you
So it's like a massive Venn diagram, as I was saying. It's many things, and it's none of these things are in isolation. It's that exploration, it's that passing on information, the paradox of feeling at ease and feeling totally in a rabbit hole at the same time at some point. um, um, letting supporting the participants in their learning, knowing you can't rush this anything because they're at the beginning, and at the same time they're not at the beginning. I was blessed to have 4 people who are facilitators, coaches in some shape or form, and really thinkers. So that was, I'm aware that they were not really beginners in a way at all in exploring thinking. And then navigating the usual, turn your tap off.
yeah.
And the other, if you say one thing, you can see it, just look at it. Oh my God. So it's about letting go whilst being there and carrying, carrying whilst letting go.
Yeah, yeah. And did you teach online?
Yes, yes.
Okay, wow, wow. Yeah, that's great.
People from 3 different places in the UK,
Yeah.
and one person was in Lithuania.
Wonderful. Oh, so what would be most useful on this call? What would
Well, I would love, Sophie, to hear from you about what you found, what you would find. I mean, that I just respect the question, what you'd find most valuable for me to know, what you think I shouldn't know from your experience. And also maybe how these thoughts evolved from you, what you thought was very valuable at the beginning, or maybe years ago, and what you think about it now, maybe how that changed.
yeah, that's interesting.
That's a lot to unpack, but
so I think maybe where I've changed or evolved as I've taught this is I think when I started, I felt like I had to teach loads. And also that was partly, I suppose, how we were teaching it. But I was really like, I've got to teach the components and I've got to teach this and I've got to. And so I was very focused on doing it right, and wanting to make sure that I'd covered the content. And now I'm much, much more relaxed about that, and not more relaxed in that I don't care or I don't. But actually, I trust that there are opportunities in the course to teach everything, just because naturally people feelings will come up or information will come up in the course of the experience of being in a thinking environment, whereas before I had my plan. It's like I had my plan and I would modify it, but I was really like, well, this is my job. And I also really thought that my job on the thinking partnership course was to teach them to be thinking partners. That's I had that for years. And then I really realized that actually it was to teach them to be able to think. And that was a massive shift for me, because it was only when I understood that it was about them developing their kind of experiential understanding of what this could do for them, that they would then want to partner. And they wouldn't want to partner from a place of, oh, I'm doing this. It's more from that place of like, this is amazing. Look what it like, I'm thinking for myself and I've challenged my own assumptions. And therefore I know, like, when someone's struggling or they're sitting for long periods of silence, or like I know they're thinking, because that's I think. And so I think that really shifted how I approached the course.
mm-hmm.
And also I think it's from that experience of thinking for ourselves that we want to get good at it. We want to be able to then offer this to other people. And we want to keep reciprocating. We want to be in partnership with people. So yeah, I think that was a really big shift from it being something was like, oh yeah, they've got to be great thinking partners. Now I'm like, yeah, they will be once they've learned how to think for themselves. yeah. And if I could, maybe I'll just add to that, is that I mean, the thing I think I'm also really conscious of is that, like, for me, the thinking environment is a practice, much like yoga or meditation or whatever people practice in their lives. it's not something that, like, people could come on our thinking partnership courses and they would have a lovely experience and that would be lovely, but unless they practice, that they won't be a thinking environment, you know. So I think there's this real thing around how can I make the course sort of pointing them towards practice.
Yeah.
And then they start where they are, but actually, like, I know we both have meditation practices. It's not like it's ever done, is it? You go, oh, I've got the meditation badge, or I've got the thinking environment badge. It's like, oh no, it just gets better and deeper and stronger and has more impact on your life. And so I really want them to leave thinking of it as a practice, that they want to practice. You know, not that it's like a, you know, but they want to practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. The image I've got up is, you know, it's like you talk about the badge, but actually the badge only is there if there is any badge when you are doing it,
Yeah.
and it vanishes when you stop doing it.
Yeah.
And for that presence to be there, yeah, it's like it conjures. You got, yeah, your presence conjures the badge up.
Yeah. And it's oh, what was I going to say? But I think it's also really important that we carry on practicing. You know, that it's not something that becomes kind of a transactional, oh, I'm teaching this course. It's like, actually, we continue to think for ourselves. And I think often it comes up, you know, in either explicitly or implicitly, but like, am I doing it right? You know, and I think it's really helpful that, you know, that we don't see the benefits or of the thinking sessions naturally in the sessions. So sometimes we get a release of feelings or we feel better, but it's actually that the quality of our lives, you know, the quality of our relationships, the quality of our work, the quality of how we feel, how we communicate, over time, that's what you see improve. And then the practice is the thinking sessions. Yeah. But a bit like meditation or going to the gym, it's not always like in that moment you think, oh, that was transformational. You know, and I think that's one of the things people hear, that the thinking partnership course is this transformational, life-changing course. And it is, but it's because it's got this continual practice of change, because then it changes as we change.
Yeah. There is that question that came up all the time. Like, you know, some people have got, through their job, they got vocabulary, specific vocabulary. And at some point, one of them came, yeah, but what is the framework? And there was another one who was she was an engineer by formation. So she said, what is the 1, 2, 3, 4 steps? And I was pushing, I said, no. But once I said, no, I've got 2 things for you. We've got the 10 components and we've got the consideration. That's your steps. Yeah. Play. Yeah. And there was oh yeah, actually, yeah.
And I think that is, I mean, I'm really clear now. So at the start of a thinking partnership course, I kind of explicitly say that, you know, on other courses, you get a curriculum and you get a framework, and, you know, that can give a sense of certainty and a sense of security. But actually, that isn't the place where learning happens. Yeah. And that isn't the place, you know, in some ways, the only thing we know in a thinking session is that we don't know. Yeah. You know, it's like we've got to be comfortable with uncertainty. But for a lot of people, that is like so uncomfortable. Yes. Because they're like, but I want to do it right. Yeah. You know, and it's that, you know, that, and I think it's how do we help people get past that, like, perfectionistic, I'm not doing it right, I'm not, to have the ease to sit with, we don't know. Yeah. You know, we actually don't know what's going to happen, and nor does the thinker. And I think, like, Maurice always says this so beautifully, is like, actually, if we're really creating a thinking environment, every time we ask a question, neither we nor the thinker has any idea what they're about to think. Yeah. I mean, how amazing is that?
Absolutely, that's great.
Yeah.
There's that analogy of the martial arts, you know, when you learn some sequences. Yeah. Yeah. And well, go and do a fight was like, wait, I'm going to do my kata now during the fight. That's not going to happen. There is just about flexing the brain, making the brain recognize some opportunities, but that's what it is. It doesn't mean that it will be done in a sequential manner once you're in a thinking partnership or in or even a martial arts fight. It will never happen like that. If it does, you're lucky. And I don't even know if you could call that lucky, but it's just so up to there are things that you recognize. Oh yeah, we're at that point now. It's more than just thinking for thinking. Maybe there's something that's emerging that really want to put their teeth in. Okay. And
yeah, and there's something there that I love that analogy, because there's something for me about like the thinking partnership session is one application of the 10 components. And so it's like, and we apply those 10 components in different ways, don't we? Whether it's in meetings or in coaching, or but actually there is something around we are taking what we know works really well to ignite thinking in this unique space where it's, you know, we completely embody those components in service of one person's thinking.
Yeah.
And that's quite a unique space. And so I think there is something about, like, it, whilst it is all like it's wide open and we're not sure what's happening, I think there is a not a boundary, but there is something around, like, this is a particular space and a particular application which you can learn about and you can practice, and it's quite reliable. You know, it's like within the shape of it, you know, we don't know what's happening in the middle, but I think for people to understand, like, there are the considerations, and we can really think through those, and there are some really good findings, and they're really good to know. And then you learn those enough to put them down, but you've still got to go through that experience of, oh, I don't know anything, and there is some stuff to learn. But I think it's, you know, it's that combination. I think we do this really well on this course, is that, like, learning is a combination of experience and reflection. Experience and reflection, and then we learn. And the most important thing is the experience. If they don't have an experience, they're reflecting purely theoretically. And it's like, well, that doesn't work.
And then you use the component of feeling.
Yeah.
And then the 10 components are a little bit, there's a leak.
Yeah.
There's a leak. Yeah. But it's so funny. I'm smiling and I can't even put that down, because it's a constant paradox of having something to serve or to pass on, to be with, to elements that you have with you to serve, but then knowing that they might not even be necessary or being used at all, or it's a constant paradox. It's a bit messy here. It's the constant paradox. What I've noticed as well is that we've got all these around that transition, you know, the transition, and then what makes you think it's true, feel it's true, the question, the murkiness. And then what can you credibly assume? No, we're not going there. And actually we came to it, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I had to really think fast, see what's going on at the moment. We are not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. Well, we still got one question. And it's like, I'm going to use, and that offered the most fantastic breakthrough for the thinker. And I never use it. Never. But it was still there just in case in the bottom of the room. And I was like, oh my God. So it's that there was a tension here from me probably at that point, which I tried to be very good of. But I realized I was a bit tense around that part.
Yeah, and I think it's natural, because even for us as thinkers, we don't necessarily navigate all of the findings that regularly. You know, because we'll be in partnership with people, and we'll be, even on our courses, you know, it's the same 60 or 70% of thinking sessions. What people need most is time to think.
That's
you know,
it.
and that space, and they'll think for themselves, and they're not blocked by anything, you know, they just haven't had time. And so I think there is something about how do we keep kind of practicing, and because then when it does come up, not only is it's kind of, it's still quite fresh for us, but we've also got to teach it.
Yeah.
And it can feel clunky, you know, there's still times where I think, oh, I feel a bit rusty, you know, on this. But I suppose it's being okay with that, you know, and being at ease and saying, actually, let me just think through this and let me try and navigate it. And then sometimes I haven't taught it that well, you know, on a course, and I've thought, actually, but then afterwards I'll follow up with an email and say, oh, actually, this is what I wish I'd said, you know, or
Yes.
let me talk through this example. I didn't. And so I think there are, you know, we don't always have to get it completely right in the moment.
Mm.
Um, and there was something you said earlier, and it was one of the things I talked to Trisha about. This is what I really want people to leave with, is to practice like doing thinking sessions, but also to regularly do their own on paper incisive question exercises.
Yeah.
So I encourage people every week just to do an on paper exercise, because what it gets them into the habit of doing is identifying what they most want and then explicitly looking at assumptions, so that then when they're in partnership with somebody, as and when they need to, they've got that fluency
Of building the incisive question.
building their own incisive questions.
Yeah.
Because even when they're doing their practice, most of the time they won't go explicitly to assumptions unless they're putting in our 90-minute sessions.
Yeah.
Whereas most people tend to practice in 30 minutes. You know, really hard, I think, for them to then look at assumptions explicitly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It's so true. I got into the habit of capturing my incisive questions when I'm a thinker.
Yeah.
And also the appreciations.
Yeah.
It's so rich. It really is rich. And it somehow it marries well with the incisive question, gives me even more stuff to play with when I'm on my own, and I continue my session on my own. You know, after we had a thinking partnership, and I thank you, and it was really good. And then I continue, and if I knew, da, and because I've got that value showing up, what more does it makes me, you know, generate? Or does it make me generate? That's interesting. Wow. There was something else that came up in the course, is that some people so they had read the book, some parts of the promise, and then I didn't give them. I give the context because it was nice. At the end of day one, I gave them the context, so really micro homeopathic doses.
Yeah.
And I give the detail only at the end of day three.
Yeah.
I encourage them to take some notes, etc. But some people also took literally, I am listening, and they forgot to take a few notes. And then when they were practicing between day 2 and day 3, suddenly they came to some transition part, and they wanted to fall back on their note, but they didn't have any notes anymore, or not enough. And so they felt like, well, that would have been nice to have the detail at that point. And so I wonder what your views are about material or not, or what?
I mean, I think I'm different to anyone else in the world on this, in that, so when we moved everything online, I created an entire online learning resource suite for my students, because I knew I couldn't teach the way I was teaching in person. So I have for each of my courses, there's videos and learning notes on everything that is in the content. So they have videos on everything and learning notes on everything, but I don't signpost them to it. So say for the thinking partnership course, I would just say there's like a welcome, which is the context, and a little welcome video for me, and a couple of bits and bobs, but then the resources are there for them as and when they want them. And then at the end I sort of say, oh, it's here. But for some people, not having that information completely means they've got no ease and they can't pay attention. What I found is it makes no difference, because the people that are read write learners and want to learn that way, they'll get the book, they'll do whatever they want anyway. I don't use any materials on the course. So
Yeah.
I'm like, when we're together, it's just us learning.
Yeah.
But then they have got those resources after the course
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
know they can kind of fall back on.
Yeah.
I mean, what's my feeling on this? I do agree with Nancy in that if we give the materials out, people think that's what they're learning and it takes away from the experience, you
Yeah.
know. So I definitely think that. But I don't have a problem with people accessing, you know, in between, you know, so I do my course, I have 2 days in person and then we have a day a month later.
Yeah.
My expectation is in that gap, they will go and learn and read and absorb everything that they want to.
Yeah.
And if they want to, they'll find the findings, they'll find the detail because it's right at the bottom of the resource list. So yeah, I kind of think I've got adult learners, you know, I'm not, you know, I think it's slightly infantilizing to say we've got these findings, but we're not going to give you them till the end. Like, to me, it doesn't feel, you know, I think it's how we're using these.
Yeah. I feel there is a balance to strike there as well, personally. And some people need to see things in writing, otherwise they can't, or they interpret it. And there you go. You go, what would you like to think or feel or would like to say? They go and start to be creative, and that there creates an imbalance between them because some are heard it right, just repeating it, you know, like that. And others are mixing up the transition becomes as clunky as it is as it is grammatically or literally, you know. So if they haven't seen it in writing, they go, don't know how to say it. What is it again? And that creates an interruption.
Yeah. But I think I definitely have, like, the first 2 days are kind of like, vroom, we're just in it, you know, like it's the experience, they're with me, we're doing it, you know, there's all this learning. But at some point, if they want to learn this, they have to go away and they're going to, you know, because it's not, you know, as much as we'd like to say it's intuitive, like actually the findings are really helpful.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm like, I want them to know about assumptions.
Yeah.
You know, and I want them to know, like, actually, how do you navigate those?
Yeah.
You know, and so I think there is always a balance between how can we share enough that they can start learning it without it being a curriculum.
Yeah, I like that tension, Sophie. I
Yeah.
love that tension. As much as I find it annoying, it's really good.
Yeah. But if I really brought it down, like, what are we teaching on this course? Like, we're teaching attention and we're teaching assumptions.
Yeah, and I told that story. Jane told that story last week because I went to her class last Wednesday. She talked about the anecdote with Nancy here. Was it with a mentor or mentee?
Yeah.
Was it a mentor or mentee?
I think it was a mentee.
Yeah. I glossed over that part, but it wasn't conversation. Well, actually, it's all about assumption and attention and assumption. She was like, well, yeah. They found it. So it was just before my day 3, and it creates some sort of relief. But at the same time, I make clear, it doesn't take away the 10 components are here for you as well. They're here. They don't judge. They're here. They're there. They wrap us up. You know, they're with us. Don't let them drop. They're here for you.
Yeah, and I think on that though, that if you take attention, it contains all the other components.
Yes.
You know, same as, you know, any of them. It's like you can't have attention without equality and ease and information. You know, it's like actually it contains all of the others.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, there is something for me on, like, and Nancy talks about it, doesn't she? Like the simplicity on the far side of complexity. You know, and there's so much in it, you know, actually what we're teaching on this course is quite simple. Like, can we be with each other in a way that says you matter and your thinking matters? Like, it's so simple.
It's beautiful. Yes, but or no, but.
Yeah, but it's that response stream, isn't it? You know, Trisha talks about this all the time. Like, so much of the work of the thinking partner is managing our response stream.
Yep.
and not being directed by it. Like, am I doing it right? Are they doing it right? What am I going to ask? Like, our response stream is so dominant.
Yeah.
And actually, the practice in a thinking session is to kind of just let that settle.
Yeah. Yeah. This is another paradox. Like there's a powerful, firm softness about it.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
like a really powerful softness about it.
Yeah.
I just love this paradox. I think it's the most
There are so many
stuff. It's like living at the same time with these paradoxes that just, wow. It's like embracing complexity. It doesn't mean that you've got an answer to everything, but it's like feeling at ease with complexity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is there anything more you wanted to ask? I could talk for hours on this.
Yeah, I could invite you to my house and we can talk at length. What more? So I know that you are a teacher with a capital T, and how does this practice of the think environment teaching transforms your other ways of teaching, your other contexts or other facilitation or.
It's interesting. I don't distinguish anymore between any of the things I do. I suppose all my work is in a thinking environment. So I don't do anything that isn't, which is lovely. I mean, interesting. I think the thing that comes to mind is the thinking partnership course is where I feel most at ease.
Yeah.
And that's not to say it's easy, holding the space, but there is something that just feels very, like it's just I'm meeting with people and in some ways, like, what is teaching? I think we have to really think about that. Like, what do we mean by teaching? If I think about the best teachers I've ever had, they've inspired me to want to learn. They've never taught me anything. Like, actually, and I've never remembered the content of what they've taught me. What they've inspired me is to be something I didn't yet know I was capable of. They've inspired me through their way of being, their own passion. And they're kind of like lighthouses, for just like, I love this thing and I'm beaming it. And if you're in the light of that beaming thing that I love, you get absorbed into it. So I suppose for me, a teacher isn't someone who tells me stuff. Like if I look back on all the teachers I've ever had, they've never told me anything, but they've inspired me by who they are. And I think that's what I aspire. That's the kind of teacher I aspire to be.
Yeah. Yeah. You just described my experience of being taught capoeira, to the Brazilian martial art.
Okay.
And I'm still in touch with the original master I had. Had that strength of beaming like a lighthouse, as you say, but let us really be unique individual in that group of people who are together and shaping something together. But if you're not given the space to develop your own voice, the energy is going to leak. There is a hole in the circle. It's just, and it's the same. The closest experience from the time to think done, the thinking partnership, or whether it's a group experience, is that meeting, that encounter, where presence needs to be there. Well, you can't be invisible in capoeira because you're going to get hit, but but actually there's the same thing, and there's a cheekiness as well in capoeira, which might not necessarily be in the thinking environment, but maybe we have that ease. It's the ease thing, the ease. And so that inspiration, it is just the closest experience I could find. And the example of the teacher in this was something I aspired to be really.
Yeah, and I think about like when I've been with Nancy, and I think Nancy is one of the best teachers I've ever had the pleasure of working with. And so Nancy does that, but she's also so clear. Like, she has a precision and there's a discipline to her practice.
Yeah.
There's a rigor to her practice. There's a real embodiment of her practice that I think it's like that lends itself to authenticity. And I think so when you're with her, it's like there's nothing about her that is saying be like me. You know, she's not trying to make people, but she's really clear, you know, in what she's sharing. And yeah, so I think there is, again, it's this precision and discipline, you know, that comes through practice, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we really want to share and embody on this course, is us as practitioners who are
Yeah.
practicing.
Yeah.
And we practice along with them, and we share what we know, and then we hope they practice.
Yeah.
And then they do what they do with it.
Yeah. 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 So sort of, these are words that I just kind of wrapped up the course with. Obviously, they're adult; they do what they want. You know? But it was the word, my wish for you, my invitation for you, is to think more and therefore practice more. And curtain.
Oh, so is there anything more before we close today?
No, thank you so much, Sophia. It was wonderful. I really appreciate your time because I know you're really busy, and I knew it would be delicious. I really enjoy exchanging with you very much so, and I'm ever so grateful for the opportunities you give us all to practice as well in the group and make new friends.
Make new friends. Yes, we've got a session, haven't we, on Friday? But let me just appreciate you. Oh, goodness, this morning, what I most appreciate is this kind of, it's your energy, but it's the radiance of it. Like it beams out and reaches me up here in a grey, dark Peak District day. So I would really love to appreciate your energy.
Mm. Thank you. Sophie, there's something that just came up. Are you organizing